don't love even talking about Barack Obama. Frankly, I had some real issues with his presidency. I've had probably even more issues with his ex-presidency, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. Where he's just a producer and a podcaster. I mean, that's his...
And a scold occasionally.
But it's a scolding stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if you're really going to engage, if you're going to sit on the sidelines and be like, I'm gonna be retired and I'm gonna pursue my,
do slice of life
showbiz.
documentaries.
Yeah, I mean, fine. It doesn't set the greatest example for America in my estimation, but whatever. I'm not going to judge, how you lead your personal life. But when you re-engage in public, for the most part, most of the things he said have been unhelpful. Trying to convince the NBA basketball players not to exercise their strength as labor. In all the occasions, making it vote harder as opposed to pushing lawmakers to be more aggressive.
Likely working behind the scenes to get some of the Democratic Party to coalesce behind Biden ahead of Super Tuesday.
Absolutely. I mean, on some level, that's the least odious in some ways to me, because it's like, of course, that's his guy, and he's going to do what he can do to help his guy. But I would prefer just if you're gonna go take a vacation, take it. In this one instance, I think he has a point in terms of what the media covers. But part of that also, it's not just about the media; it's about how much the Democratic Party and the media, the administration, how much they talk about the plight of immigrants and refugees, and their record on it is not terribly good either. But here is the Fox taking issue with Obama saying maybe we should spend a little more time talking about the 200 odd people who died trying to immigrate to Europe, essentially.
Dude, what do you think, Chelsea?
Well, when you're the citizen of the world, you always think about the world instead of the United States. Remember, this is a guy whose father has roots in Africa. This is a guy who spent a lot of his childhood in Southeast Asia. Is that right? I think it's right. And then
he ate a dog, Jesse.
I didn't bring that up, but I'm glad you did. And then spent a lot of time in Hawaii. Was that the last state to get a star in the flag? Not so sure about that, but
oh my God.
He's never really looking at things from an American perspective. He's always speaking to the world. Even when he's speaking to us, he's appealing to the world. So let me just tell you, this is...
keep going.
I mean, they made that argument about Ted Cruz, who was born in Canada, right? They made that same argument.
Right.
Yeah. Or
McCain.
Or I was about to say McCain, born in Panama, right?
Let me just tell you, this is not the BBC. CNN, Fox covered the story the same way. And here's why, from a raw news editorial standpoint. The Greek migrants that drowned, there was no Titanic angle. Number one, huge angle. Number two, we had guests that knew people that were submerged. Number three, there was suspense because we had the countdown to the air shutting down. And this was off our coast. This is not Greece. This is the United States of America. If there had been a Cuban boat that had capsized and there was Cubans that were drowning off the coast of Miami, that would have been wall-to-wall coverage. We don't live in Europe, Barack Obama. This is the United States of America. And it just shows how naive, detached, and how snobby he is to not understand that this is the United States, and as sad as it is, and it was a horrible story off the coast, this is not something that concerns most Americans in their spare time.
Yes, the snob says we shouldn't talk about the billionaires who went down in a submersible to do a tour of a underwater graveyard
But this I think that what this though belies is that the comfortability that Waters has in laying this out as if it's so obvious that what they're doing is completely not about news. And also that the value of every life is precious, which he will say in any other circumstance that suits him. And the inherent sort of bigotry that's associated with this. I mean, yes, the submersible story is a more exciting story, but you talk about it in the context of a lament. Like, if you do not see that as problematic, both for U.S. culture and media, if you make that analysis and celebrate it like he does, and says it's actually a positive value, we're not being snobby, as if like covering the deaths of poor, desperate refugees is somehow snobby because it happened. You know, we're talking hundreds of people dying. I think it was something like 200 and something died out of, I don't know, 700 people plus maybe on a boat. Dying. People who are just going to try and find a way in which to, you know, provide for their families. It's snobby to talk about that in his mind.
Yeah.
It gives you a sense of like it's sort of the value system that comes out of that. It's not impossible for me to see like, Chris Hayes make that same sort of like statement, but it would be a lament. It would be a critique of the media, not a celebration of what drives their ratings.
I mean, if a semi that was taking migrants into America and they ran out of oxygen near the Alamo, like just like his little conditions, like it was near the Titanic. The reason is, another fundamental reason is you don't care if these people die. You think they like kind of deserve it, actually.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's the conflation of like going back to the Obama years of not connecting with a caricature of a white middle class or working class person in terms of Jesse Waters' conception of them, with genuine elitism. As he says in this segment that they knew some of the multimillionaires and billionaires that were on the submersible. I mean, who's speaking for who at this point?
I mean, it shows like there are structural obstacles for the media to cover. I think one of the main human interest stories of the entire world, which is this sort of dislocation.
Dislocation and the thousands who die annually, probably immigrating just in, on the ocean alone.
Yeah.
And who knows how many hundreds of, if not thousands who die, in the desert, trying to cross the border.
I saw a UK report and it said that like for every migrant that gets on shore, it costs like 60,000 extra pounds to remove them as opposed to like treat them as refugees.
Well, and this is a stated policy of Melonia's in Italy in particular. We just saw the far right made some gains in Greece. This is going to there's going to be more of this because they're literally trying to, at least in Italy, hamstring these humanitarian boats from getting and helping these migrants. They want the cruelties of the point in this instance, and that's why right-wing media doesn't want to talk about it.